for world peace. The Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei's U.S. visit. United as one for world peace. In response to further spread the great compassion of Oriental culture, strengthen Sino-American friendship, and promote peace around the world, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei, successor of Sino-esoteric Buddhism lineage, arrived in the United States on January 16, 2017, with a delegation to attend the 65th Annual National Prayer Breakfast. The Master was jointly invited by Senator John Boozman and Senator Christopher Coons, co-chairs of the Congressional Hosts Committee. On the morning of February 1st, the Master attended the International Luncheon with the members of Congress from both the House and Senate, other dignitaries, leaders, diplomats, and eminent persons from over 140 countries. The luncheon was held at the Washington Hilton with over 4,000 guests who prayed together for peace around the world. As a special guest of the prayer breakfast, the Master delivered a keynote speech entitled, United as One for World Peace.
尊敬的世界各个教主们、首脑们、领导们、女士们、先生们、朋友们、各位善男信女们，你们好，有缘。今天，虽然我们来自不同的国家，说不同的语言，拥有不同的信仰，因为我们对世界和平有着共同的期盼与渴望，对人类命运的共同关心，此次相会法喜充满。
The Master said, over 2,500 years ago, through his quest to find salvation from pain and sufferings for all sentient beings, the Buddha established the Buddhist religion, which ignited a beacon of wisdom and great love for all of humanity and added glorious chapters to the history of cultural exchanges and mutual learnings among civilizations. For his part, Jesus also taught humankind, through his lifetime behavior, the meanings of unconditional love, peace, and reconciliations. His brave dedication to bringing salvation to humankind through self-sacrifice is an extraordinary inspiration. Having accompanied humankind in its development for thousands of years, religions have great vitality. The fundamental doctrines of all major religions are all pure ones that are based on advocacy for peace and the belief in the virtuous causal effect. If efforts are exerted in search of the commonalities of different religions, conflicts will not arise due to differences in our founders, and there will be no suppression of one doctrine by another. Without tolerance for each other, people in this world will forever be locked in fighting and killings, leaving our societies unstable and inharmonious. As human beings living on this earth, we must live as members of the same family, removing hatred and hostility, loving one another in affinity, and coexisting in harmony. President Xi Jinping of China pointed out, an attitude of equality and modesty is required if one wants to truly understand the various civilizations. Taking a condescending attitude toward a civilization cannot help anyone to appreciate its essence, but may risk antagonizing it. Both history and reality show that pride and prejudice are the two biggest obstacles to exchanges and mutual learning among civilizations.
今天，让我们一起来庄严祈祷，祈愿世界不同的国家、不同的民族、不同宗教信仰的人民团结起来，向全世界发出和平的声音。 传播和平的理念，播撒和平的种子，抵制战争，杜绝暴力，保护生态，消除贫困。21世纪的世界各个领袖和精神导师，你们都是有使命、 从天国应世而来的，都是仁慈博爱的和平使者。我期待着你们能够推动人类历史文明的发展，引导人类步于大同、大爱、无私的境界，使全人类团结起来，结成人类文明的命运共同体，共创幸福美好的极乐世界。让我们心中无限的爱遍布整个世界，甚至每一个角落，没有任何敌意和怨恨，每一个众生都能感受到这份善缘的挚爱。祈愿世界永和平，安可乐，耶克索。
Today, let us pray together for people from different countries, different
After his speech, the Master paid tribute to all participants with a sign of the cross, a hand-over-heart bow, and palms put together. The room was filled with a lasting, thunderous applause. On the early morning of February 2nd, Senators Boozman and Coons, co-chairs of the 65th National Prayer Breakfast, welcomed in their opening remarks guests from around the world. The co-chair of the previous year, Senator Juan Vargas, led the prayer to God. Let us pray for each other, for humanity, for leaders of all nations around the world. President Trump spoke of the morals of the Christian faith based on his personal experiences and prayed for peace around the world with the guests.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here this morning, and so many faith leaders, very, very important people to me. I will tell you that, and I tell you that from somebody that has had material success and knows tremendous numbers of people with great material success, the most material success. Many of those people are very, very miserable, unhappy people. And I know a lot of people without that, but they have great families, they have great faith, they don't have money, at least not nearly to the extent, and they're happy. Those, to me, are the successful people, I have to tell you. Thank you.
Protecting the earth is our common destiny. Since 1953, U.S. presidents have been hosting the National Prayer Breakfast on the first Thursday of every February. It has continued for 65 years and has become an important political tradition. As the spiritual advisor of NPB, Mr. Douglas Evans Coe had organized and attended every NPB, earning the respect of every American president since Eisenhower. Mr. Coe had arranged for many leaders of different nations to resolve international conflicts by meeting in private. To push forward the peace talks in the Middle East, he prayed together with the President of the United States, Israel, and Egypt, which resulted in the famous Camp David Accords. He also pushed for a ceasefire agreement between India and Pakistan and the signing of an accord between two rival states, the Congo and Rwanda, to end a war. President George H.W. Bush commended him for his quiet diplomacy. Hillary Clinton, former First Lady and Secretary of State, described him as a source of strength and friendship and a unique presence in Washington, a genuinely loving spiritual mentor. On the morning of December 12, 2016, Mr. Coe told Jinke disciples, "Your master has great wisdom. Americans both for and against President Trump are large in number. I hope through your master's visit to the United States, he will bring some wisdom and love to our president. I hope Mr. Trump will be a suitable president with compassion and love." On the afternoon of the same day, the newly elected President Trump paid a special visit to Mr. Coe. The day after the end of NPB, Mr. Ko and the Master had their unforgettable and historic meeting at the Cedars. Right after everyone had sat down, the 87-year-old Mr. Ko said with great joy, "Because of the problem with my health, this is the first time in 65 years that I had to miss a national prayer breakfast. But for our meeting today, I insisted that the healthcare professionals bring me back here from the hospital." The Master said in reply, "Our meeting today is the result of our connection in past lives and the divine arrangement of God, Buddha, and Bodhisattvas. You have dedicated your whole life, time, and energy to the undertakings to spreading compassion and love. You are very modest and keep a low profile with no desire for fame. In the interest of promoting peace, you have endured a lot of hardship and injustice while helping to resolve many conflicts and remove misunderstandings between different countries. You brought together many heads of state and people of different faiths to pray together for the happiness of humanity and world peace. You have made significant contributions to the development of human civilization. You are a son of God and an ambassador of peace. You have accumulated boundless merits, and for that I praise you." Mr. Ko was deeply moved and took the Master by the hand when he said, "I am delighted to hear that your speech at the NPB moved everyone present. I told every guest who visited me about the grand masterpiece that can inspire spiritual awakenings in humanity which you and your disciples had created. They were all amazed. I hope the United Nations headquarters will keep the original, and as for the copies, I think one should be displayed at a place where the U.S. President and Congressmen can see it every day, while others should be spread around the globe to promote peace and humanity." Mr. Ko stopped for a second to take out a crystal globe which he presented to the Master and said, "Master, please unite the over 7 billion people on earth together with love and encourage them to live in harmony so that humanity will have a peaceful earth." The Master accepted the crystal globe with great pleasure, put it on a palm, and began to pray with infinite compassion in his Vajra meditation. The Master put his palms together to pray for the compassion and love from all religious founders, saints, and sages in the past, to infuse into the heart of humanity, purify the darkness from ignorance, and light the lamp of awakening. A continuing sound of mantra chanting from high above began to fill the quiet living room, like the sound of ocean waves lingering in everyone's heart. Mr. Ko watched the Master intently with shimmering eyes. Suddenly, he put his left hand over his face, and the other tight on the Master's hand with a lump in his throat, his eyes brimming with tears. Saints of the past are models for humanity. Ambassador Tony Patrick Hall is a key organizer of the NPV who served in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1979 to 2002. During his time as the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, he made significant contributions dealing with global disasters, especially child hunger. He also made substantial contributions in a Middle East peace initiative in collaboration with the Center for the Study of the Presidency, and went to the DPRK to resolve an American hostage crisis. On the morning before the NPB, Ambassador Hall and his friend paid a special visit to the Master. Jinke disciples presented him with a divine mandala painting in a calligraphic work entitled United as One. The Jinke disciples explained, in his deep esoteric meditation in the 100,000 mountains of Xuanlei, China, on the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, there emerged all the founders, gods, and protectors of various religions: Mahavairakana, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Sakyamuni, Mother Maria, Lao Tse, Confucius, Vishnu, Bodhisattvas, saints, sages, and men of great stature from the past to the present, from east and west, etc. Their photons Dharmakaya continued to gather round from all directions of the universe and transformed themselves into the purest form of great radiance to form a royal blue lotus mandala, gravitating ever closer towards the Master. Instantaneously, all their thoughts and emotions were integrated into the Master's mind. They were calling upon the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei to use his vows of compassion, wisdom, and love as vehicles to awaken mankind, which has lost his way in greed and ignorance, by reminding mankind to review the compassionate and benevolent teachings of generations of religious leaders and sages. Let go of pride, prejudice, and hatred. After emerging from his meditation, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei began to set up a mandala according to Sino-esoteric Buddhist rites. Forming esoteric mantras with his hands, the Master led his disciples in chanting esoteric mantras while burning incense and praying. Assisted by his disciples, the Master created a grand mandala in 108 days. In the painting, founders and protectors of various religions, bodhisattvas, saints, sages, and men of virtues from east and west, past and present alike, encircle and look down onto the earth. Like a loving and kind mother caring for her sleeping baby in the cradle, they look at the earth with serenity and great compassion. In an outer ring around the sages and great men is a concentric circle composed of the flags of the United Nations member states. On either side of the painting are world leaders, including President Xi Jinping, Putin, and Trump, joining hands with the United Nations Secretary General, sending a message with the initiative for the world to be united in forming a community of shared future for mankind and creating a great, beautiful homeland of ultimate bliss.
The dimension of things, how he got the dimension of the people.
Ambassador Hall said with great amazement,
hard to do in a painting.
So the painting was created by the Master after he
the
received enlightenment from the sages of both East and West during his meditation. It's extraordinary. I am deeply moved. The Master said, in ancient times, methods of transportations were limited. Therefore, sages were born in many different places around the world to teach where destiny led them, in order to steer humanity away from selfishness, greed, jealousy, pride, and hatred. Sages lived as examples in practicing the 6 perfections and found truth through austerity. After they attained divinity, they devoted all their time and efforts to teaching sentient beings the meaning of love, gratitude, peace, dedication, contentment, and discipline, thus lighting the way to happiness for all sentient beings. They are great moral examples and spiritual advisors for humanity. The intentions of all sages are the same. Divine doctrines will contain all truth, and great virtues will tolerate all sentient. Forgiveness, tolerance, compassion, love, and selfless devotion are virtues possessed by all sages. We need to be awake from within through their teachings. Let wisdom guide humanity into a bright future and unite them to form a community of shared future for humankind. Only then can humanity walk together toward a beautiful and bright future.
And I would add, many people of faith in the West and in the Christian church.
A friend in Ambassador Hall's company sighed. To solve the hunger problem around the world, we need to find solutions to eliminate both physical and spiritual poverty. Many aspects of the Buddha Dharma are worthy of our attention, especially the inclusiveness of Buddhism, because you never say anything bad about other religions. Ambassador Hall held the Master by the hand with great sincerity and said, Master, you have brought us a great and valuable ideology. Everything you do is on the same degree as what Jesus did in the Bible, and we should work hard to make this ideology a reality. I believe the idea you are spreading is going to receive a strong resonance in America, and it will be passed on by many people. I am honored to be the Master of Ceremony at tomorrow's International Luncheon, where I get to make a grand introduction of a great Master from the East. Sino-esoteric Buddhism culture reaches America. The day before the NPB, the Master and his disciples visited the congressional buildings for Sino-esoteric Buddhism cultural exchanges with members of the U.S. Congress. Mr. Juan Vargas, a Democratic representative for California, expressed great interest in the mandala artwork that embodied profound wisdom.
And then all the men's are virtue.
Oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln, George
Washington. They're all
Wow.
The Master said, Sino-esoteric Buddhism paintings and calligraphies with profound wisdom contains boundless photon dharmakayas. It is the immersion of perfect enlightenment that can illuminate all the Buddha's cosmology. It must be viewed as an expression coming from the determination for enlightenment and the realizations from practicing the Dharma, rather than as a Buddhist culture, philosophy, or cliché. You are devoted to your faith. Therefore, you can see the powerful connotations of boundless love and the harmonious coexistence of humanity that this painting holds.
Well, I would like to say, first of all,
Mr. Vargas was moved when he remarked,
thank you.
"Today I have the chance to see a remarkable artwork. It is exceptional in its artistic expression and even more extraordinary in the message it contains. It has helped deepen the mutual understanding of our two peoples, promote U.S.-Sino friendship, and it advocates the ideology of world peace. I visited China before, and I know there are many unimaginable ancient Chinese civilizations that can definitely be edifications to humanity." The Master said,
中华的文明的核心为儒释道文化，这三种文化成为维系中华民族几千年发展的精神纽带，也是人类文明史上三教和谐共存的典范。当代人要正确地认识宗教所起到的教化人心、滋养心灵、稳定社会，具有重要的意义。
The Master continues to say, the conflicts amongst humans in recent times are largely due to disputes in ideology. Narrow nationalism and extreme religious thoughts are unstable factors in society. Unilateral recognition and poor guidance in facing ethnic and religious matters are also major causes for the intensification of contradictions in society. With regards to people of different religions and cultural traditions around the world, we should strengthen the impact of the inherent links amongst different religions and cultures while finding more commonalities to relate to each other. During interactions with people of different faiths, we should be more inclusive and unite together to build mutual trust and do away with oppositions. As long as the doctrines of a religion are focused on kindness, tolerance, and the interest of humanity, there is always room for communication and equal coexistence. Mr. Vargas saying, "Your ideology is a great inspiration to us all. We look forward to praying for peace with you and working together to create a blissful world." Mr. Vargas piously beseeched the Master to bless him. Soon afterward, the Master met with Mr. Jeffrey Lane Fortenberry, a Republican representative for Nebraska. Mr. Fortenberry is also the Dean of Nebraska's congressional delegation. He asked the Master respectfully, "Master, could you please advise me on what is the proper etiquette to welcome you?" The Master said,
非常高兴与你结缘，真是千里有缘来相会。万法终归心，一切唯心造，心悟现真缘。你的真诚也是我们共同的缘分，什么利益都是外在的。
Mr. Fortenberry was deeply moved by the Master's reply. He said, "Material development alone cannot guarantee the peaceful development of our world. The cornerstone of our continuous development should be based on harmony in our mind and the sublimation of our spirit." Mr. Fortenberry was surprised when he saw multiple issues of the magazine Top China carry articles reporting the Master's deeds in spreading the Buddha Dharma. He asked, "I have been to China and visited many historical sites like the Great Wall. I know the ideology of your country is atheism. I thought communists are not allowed to have religious beliefs. How does this kind of article get published in a Chinese political magazine? The master answered, every nation has its history, culture, and conditions which give to its unique concept of governance, but this should not hamper the cultural exchanges between us. Although the Communist Party does not believe in any religion, it does not mean communists are not allowed to learn the Buddha's teachings of compassion and love. Much less does it mean other people cannot have the freedom to choose their faith. The Communist Party also requires its members to serve the people wholeheartedly and seek truth from facts. China's policy toward religion has been improving steadily, though there are still some people with ultra-leftist ideas who hold prejudice against religion. That is only because of their selfish motive and narrow-mindedness. It is not a reflection of the party or the government. If we still applied principles and policy mechanically, like in the Cultural Revolution, how could we build a harmonious society? And how would we unite the people of faith around the world in building a community of shared future for humankind? President Xi Jinping proposed that people with faith will bring hope to their nation and empower their country. This is a great progress that broke new grounds. I believe that in the near future, China will be welcoming a spring of blossoming flowers and a flourishing culture. Mr. Fortenberry kept nodding his head at this revelation from the master's reply. He not only instructed his assistant to make notes, but also took a pen himself to write down the master's words. In piousness, Mr. Fortenberry took out his family picture and consulted the master. I have 5 daughters. Does it have any special meaning in Buddhism? The master said,
你有5个女儿，在中国的俗习里称为5朵金花。因为你有虔诚的信仰，所以感召了天上的妙音天女下来投胎。她们很善良、聪明、伶俐，都有信仰，都是来助你的，不是来讨债的，很有孝心。 你很幸福。
The master continues to say, nowadays many people have lost their faith. They are selfish and vain with no regard for the values and meanings of life. They are only pursuing enjoyment without any gratitude, which has brought sadness into many families. It is very tragic. A person's health is the real wealth, and having no trouble is the greatest happiness. Insatiable desires will never bring true wealth. Mr. Fortenberry was deeply moved, and with great respect, he asked the master to bless him. He took out a silver bowl with the U.S. congressional logo as a gift to the master.
让我们心中无限的爱
May the
遍
boundless
布整个世
love
界，
from our heart
甚至每个角落。
spread to all corners of the world.
没有敌意，也没有怨恨。
Let there be no more hostility and
每个
hatred.
众生都感到这份善缘的
May
自
all
爱。
sentient beings
The master prayed for the spiritual photon of Sino-U.S. friendship to transform into wisdom and enter the silver bowl where it will radiate the golden ray of Bodhi.
As they strive for peace, peace for us, peace for them, peace for the entire world. I'm grateful to you for their gift of friendship, grateful for Stan's leadership, grateful for all the people who will be traveling here. Help us to know that we share a common destiny in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
On the afternoon of January 31st, the master and his disciple were invited to the congressional building to meet the U.S. representatives from Michigan, Mr. John Mulinar, a Republican. Mr. Mulinar admired every detail of the mandala masterpiece, united as one for world peace.
That's beautiful. Just beautiful.
He kept praising it as an extraordinary artwork and a great masterpiece that can inspire our spiritual awakening. The master is so great. Hailing from Michigan, Mr. Mulinar graduated from Harvard University and worked as a chemist at Dow Chemical Company for 8 months before entering politics. He felt that the transformation from a chemist to congressman had been arranged by the God of destiny. When the conversation turned to topics such as the prevailing physical hedonism in modern society, The unstable relationships between men and between countries, extremism, terrorism, environmental pollution, food safety, corruption, and so on. Mr. Bonanar sought the Master's views on these phenomena. The Master told him, "Everything exists because of cause and effect. All things are influenced by the mind and the karma of each human being. There is no point in blaming karma. Society nowadays lays too much emphasis on material wealth and ignores spiritual wealth, which led to the rise of the 6 primary afflictions and the 5 turbid disorders of the heart. If the mind is in turmoil, it becomes confused, and confusion leads to chaos in human nature. The chaotic nature will cause disorders in human actions. It is the leading cause of intensified outbreaks of world problems, which have significantly damaged the inheritance of many civilizations and destroyed the development progress in world peace. I hope you will work even harder to make greater contributions to peace for humankind, thus accomplishing your peace mission. I bless your family with happiness, well-being, and all the best in your future endeavors." At the end of the meeting, Mr. Bonanar besought the Master to bless him. The Master gave him the painting, United as One, as a memento. Caring for humanity is a peace mission. Mr. Rod Beckstrom is a world-renowned Internet security specialist who previously served as the director of the U.S. National Cybersecurity Center. During his time in NCSC, he formed a team with highly efficient leaders, all from the 6 top cybersecurity centers in America, including military, intelligence, and civilian entities. Mr. Beckstrom is also the CEO and president of ICANN. As an outstanding global thinker, his book, The Starfish and the Spider, was a bestseller in China. With an attraction toward Mahasiddhas, Mr. Beckstrom paid a special visit to the Master during the NPB week. The gentle and graceful Mr. Beckstrom asked the Master to close his eyes. Then he took out a small present and put it in the Master's palm. He continued to hold tight on the Master's hand, brimming with a brilliant smile. He wanted to give the Master a pleasant surprise, a silver coin made by the United States in 1922. Mr. Beckstrom said, "This silver coin has been passed down in my family for generations. It is made with the theme of peace. The font of the coin has Lady Liberty with the U.S. motto, 'In God We Trust.' The back of the coin has an eagle clutching an olive branch. It is a symbol of peace, unity, and earth. I present this silver coin to the Master for your contribution in promoting peace around the world." While saying this, Mr. Beckstrom put his hand on his heart as an expression of sincere respect to the Master. The rapid advances in science and technology have greatly improved the living standard of humankind, but at the same time has also brought various crises. In light of these situations, leaders of all countries in the world need to unite together and consider the development of human civilization in the long run. Because we cannot hand over the fate of the earth into the hands of some short-sighted and aggressive politicians.
We have very strong leaders in the world today, strong men.
In view of the concerns for the development of human civilization, Mr. Beckstrom said, at present, the leaders of many great powers in the world are all acting tough. Some leaders of smaller countries are even tougher. My question to the Master is this: if they continue down this path, can our world remain peaceful? The Master answered,
万事万物有因有果，当前人类的根本行为都围小利益利害而争，人与人、国与国之间都是竞争，竞争激烈了，便会有斗争，最后会引发到战争。这种文明是危险的。
The Master continues to say, if leaders of all countries in the world, especially leaders of major powers, only look after their interests, It will inevitably lead to disputes, fighting, and even wars amongst different nations, parties, religions, countries, and ideologies. World leaders of the 21st century have all descended on this earth from heaven with a mission. They should all be passionate about caring for humanity. They should lead the people of their own country in studying the teachings of saints and be role models for other countries. Great virtues have the capacity to bear all. The inferior always imitate the superiors. Teach each other with only mutual respect. Seek common grounds while reserving differences. These are the methods human beings should use to reach the home of ultimate bliss together. Many of the social elites, whether they are politicians, businessmen, or scholars, are all reincarnations of Sotapannas. I hope that, with reminders from me, they can recall the vows they made in past lives. You also descended from heaven with a mission, but only when you understand the truth of the universe and life will you be able to know your true mission in this life. With that understanding, you will be able to spread positive energy and maintain cybersecurity. Your material wealth is more than plentiful in this life. You need to have the determination to attain enlightenment with focus on undertakings that can benefit the spiritual awakening of humanity and accumulate merits for you to rise into heaven. If wisdom and intelligence are all washed in the pursuit of material wealth, all that's left is eating and drinking. What then is the meaning of this life?
So I think, as the Master knows, I'm very committed to...
The Master's revelation touched Mr. Beckstrom deeply. Your revelations give us great and important guidance. I sincerely hope that you can bless me to take on more undertakings for U.S.-China friendship and make contributions in the development of human civilization. The Master encouraged him to spread the great love from Mandala throughout the world, promote Sino-American friendship and world peace. Mr. Beckstrom sincerely asked the Master to bless him, and once again, he felt the incredible blessings from the Master. He was immersed in the joy of Dharma for a long time. Acts of kindness will benefit all sentients. Professor Robert A. Destro is the founding director of the Interdisciplinary Program in Law and Religion at the Catholic University of America's Columbus School of Law. Professor Destro also served on the United States Commission on Civil Rights and made important contributions to promoting the establishment of diplomatic relations between the United States and Iran. At the hotel where the Master was staying, Professor Destro asked, "May I ask you a few questions? Does China have praying events for world peace?" The Master said, "Since ancient times, the Chinese people have always understood the principle a peaceful mind creates a peaceful nation. A mind in turmoil will lead to turmoil in the nation. The Temple of Heaven, the Temple of Earth, the Temple of Moon, and the Temple of Sun in Beijing are the places where emperors prayed for harmony between man and nature and for peace and stability in the country. They use worship ceremonies to advocate the spiritual unity of man and nature, teach sentient beings to respect heaven and earth, and not to be absolutely lawless. It was also an opportunity to alert the emperors to govern with justice and honor, and to remind civil and military officials to be honest in performing their official duties. This awe-inspiring culture is an important factor in maintaining the heritage of the 5,000 years old Chinese civilization, and is also what humanity needs right now. In order to carry forward China's traditional cultures, advocate world peace, and unite all in forming a community of shared future for humankind, we have built a World Peace Prayers Mandala in the mountainous region of Xuanlei, Xuanlei Province. So far, ambassadors, diplomats, and peace lovers from over 30 countries have been there for exchanges and prayers. Professor Destro was filled with admiration on hearing this. As he saw the mandala artwork, united as one for world peace, he was struck by awe at the magnanimity of tolerance for humankind that the Master had attained after receiving saints' enlightenment in his meditation. The Master said, "In the Buddhist cosmology, There are infinite varieties of fantastic phenomena. In the vast universe, there are too many mysteries that humankind has yet to understand. The universe is a magical place beyond our wildest imagination. In fact, it is inconceivably more magical and complicated to envision because we humans cannot see the true nature of the vast emptiness that is all around us. Neither can we see how insignificant we are in the boundless space and time, nor can we recognize the life and spirit of the photon. We humans call those phenomena that can be explained by science as laws of nature, while those we cannot are referred to as mysteries. The will to explain mysteries sparked scientific curiosity, which led to scientific discoveries that eventually directed humankind to more mysteries. Imagination, obsession, and discovery are what drove humans to find science. All sentient beings possess the wisdom and virtues of Tathagata within, but delusions and obsessions are what's preventing us from awakening them. Human minds that take the materialistic world as the only reality are the basis for all illusionary perceptions. Therefore, they are obsessed, entangled, have love and hatred, which prevent them from breaking free from obsessions in their mind. Obsessions will lead to worries, and all worries eventually become hindrances on the mind. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have peaceful and unhindered minds because they have removed their worries and obsessions. They are not afraid of either life or death, which naturally makes them fearless. Fears in the mind of mundane beings come from ignorance. If there is still obsession in the mind, they will not let it go. If they do not have it, they will pursue it relentlessly. If they already have it, they will live in fear of losing it, whereby they will live every day swayed by consideration of gain and loss, constantly in both terror and fear, living every moment in confusion brought on by worries. You must let go of all your existing thoughts, concepts, ideas, experiences, knowledge, formulas, doctrines, axioms, theorems, frameworks, systems, theories, conclusions, preconceptions, and inherent orders. You must also remove your delusions through meditation and practice in order to explore and accept the new truth of the universe.
Okay, what do we do next? What's on the list?
The professor asked, "Master, what should we do next?" The master said, "We need to be grateful for the teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, which were also bestowed on us by God. We should pray for the leaders of all nations and hope that they will be united to lead humankind onto the right path and the kind path. We must pray for different religions and different ideologies to let go of their disputes and begin to tolerate each other. We must put into practice the teachings of compassion from saints and advocate for peace around the world. Only acts of kindness can bring benefit to all. If heaven and earth were not benevolent, nothing would have been born or grown. If human beings support violence, everything on earth will suffer. If human beings encourage compassion, everything on earth will flourish. Whether this beautiful dream can be realized depends on whether humankind can let go of ignorance and pride, and it also depends on the will of sentient beings." The professor's friend said,
"It's good for the young people in our country to hear his message, because the idea of gratitude..."
It is very important to hear the Master's revelation in our country, especially now when younger generations have no gratitude for God in their heart. They do not know that people of different faiths can pray together and be kindred spirits. Professor Destro said emotionally, "Our contemporary society is very much in need of revelations from the Master's wisdom. I will write a letter to the Vatican, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and the Iranian Ambassador to the United Nations to introduce the compassionate spirit of Sino-esoteric Buddhism. There is an old saying in Chinese, 'The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.' Our meeting today will be the first step in our journey together. Love without words will resolve differences. Due to long and complex historical changes, the ethnic conflicts on the Balkan Peninsula are intense, often giving rise to bloodshed and even wars. For a long time, the region has been nicknamed the powder keg of Europe. The Sarajevo assassination became the fuse that triggered World War I. In the late 1990s, war broke out in Kosovo, which brought in the intervention of the US-led NATO forces. With an ardent desire to remove ethnic resentment and pursue peace in the region, Mr. Kadri Veseli, Chairman of the Assembly of the Republic of Kosovo, Ambassador Vlora Chidiku of the Republic of Kosovo in Washington, D.C., and two other guests paid a special visit to the Master. Mr. Vesel said with sincerity,
"It would be a great honor to have the opportunity to have you coming in.
It is a great honor to meet with a great master like you. Although Kosovo is a small country, our people sincerely wait in the hope of your prayers. We very much look forward to having your compassion in diffusing ethnic differences and promoting peace in the Balkan Peninsula." Professor Savoy says,
"I know how much it
everyone
meant for my nation
and every country needs dignity.
the dignity.
The compassionate ideology of united as one, advocated by you,
China given
has deeply
to
touched
return
our small
dignity
country.
back to our small nation.
Master, you are an ambassador of peace and friendship. I hope you can help us through your compassion to deepen the friendly relations between our country and China." The Master says,
世界万事万物都是众缘和合，非我一人所能。众因拾柴火焰高，推动世界和平，还要靠大家共同努力。
The Master continues to say, every individual and every nation are closely connected with the rest of the world, and we are one and all. I believe that China will form a community of shared future for humankind with the people of not only Kosovo, but also those around the world. I preach wherever the Dharma leads. Where there are the causes and needs for me to preach, that's where I will go. I believe that when the opportunities are ripe, the seeds of Sino-esoteric Buddhism mandala will certainly take root in Kosovo, sprout, and. At the end of the visit, the 4-member delegation asked the Master to bless the people on the Balkan Peninsula.
We just ask you to lead our chief monk and our Speaker of Parliament and our ambassador and all leaders of both countries. Just Holy Spirit to lead them how these two nations.
Conflicts and collisions between different regions are becoming global problems in today's world. Societies around the world are plagued by the derivative effects of these problems, such as refugees, terrorism, extreme religionists. With many puzzling questions in mind, an EU delegation made a special request to visit the Master to hear his revelations on the matter. The Master said, "A lamp can light an entire room. A person with great compassion can embrace the whole world. The Buddha was repeatedly slandered, defecated, and persecuted by Brahmins, Devadatta, and Sunaksatra, but he was never angry or hateful. With immense patience, he kept teaching these ignorant people. Jesus always walked with humbleness on land, with his feet broken and his lips cracked. He didn't have time to focus on whether or not the earth was the center of the universe. What he was concerned about was if his followers could practice mercy and love, that you may be children of your Father who is in heaven, for he makes his sun to rise on the evil and the good." Muhammad had also been persecuted and beaten by many jealous people, but he always told his followers, "Whoever kills a mu'ahid, non-combatant, innocent non-Muslims, will not smell the scent of paradise." Bukhari. If believers do not learn the great virtues of saints, they will cling to the appearances and rituals of a religion and will cause concentration on the details, but forget the main purpose, misinterpret the readings, follow blindly, become superstitious, intolerant, and paranoid. conflicts will arise due to the external differences among various religions or sects. They will disapprove of one another, compare whose God is the greatest and which sect is more powerful. They will use one doctrine to suppress another. It will lead to power religions, corruption and superstition, and even anti-human religious extremism. If one steers away from the path of selfless compassion, one is bound to get onto the wrong track, however long the practice may be. As soon as the master ended his remarks, a burst of applause filled the living room. The delegation sincerely invited the master to visit Europe to spread the wisdom of Sino-esoteric Buddhism and messages of great compassion. The master held his hand in the Lotus Mudra to pray for the EU and for peace around the world. Reflect on the past to look into the future. The deepening crisis on the Korean Peninsula, resulting from the repeated nuclear tests by the DPRK and planned deployment of THAAD by Korea. The political scandal in Korea involving President Clark Geun-hye and her close friend, and the subsequent assassination of Kim Jong-nam has drawn increasing attention and concerns from the people of Northeast Asia. The day after the National Prayer Breakfast, delegations from Korea, Japan, and Mongolia invited the master to speak to them at the Washington Hilton Asia Suite. Mr. Yuji Tsushima, from the Japanese delegation, has great influence in Japan's political arena, as he is a senior member of Japan's Liberal Democratic Party and president of the Tsushima faction, which has a dominant role in the LDP. The master told Mr. Tsushima, Sino-esoteric Buddhism has always been the bridge of peace, love, and link between Asian civilizations. Sino-esoteric Buddhism and Japanese Shingon Buddhism are both from the same lineage. We have had many friendly exchanges between us. Mr. Makoto Matsumoto, Senior Secretary to Prime Minister Toshiki Kaifu, and Shizuki Gen Daisojo from Mount Koya, both visited me in Shanglin, Zhuangji. Many of my disciples have also been to Mount Koya. Mr. Yuji Tsushima nodded in agreement.
Well, in Japan, there are many old temples belonging
Japanese
to this
Buddhism
sect.
was originated from China. Many monasteries in Japan practice esoteric Buddhism. I did not expect to meet a holy Dharmakaya of Sino-esoteric Buddhism here at the NPB. The master said, I am ashamed. I am not any Dharmakaya at all. I am just a Sino-esoteric Buddhism practitioner and the successor of the lineage. We are all still practicing. During the Tang Dynasty, a Japanese monk named Kukai traveled to China to study esoteric Buddhism under Master Huingzhou, one of the founders of Sino-esoteric Buddhism. Master Huingzhou was moved by Kukai's reverence and devotion to practicing Buddhism, his efforts to let go of his ignorance and pride, while practicing with the mind of a dutiful son and a devoted servant. After 2 years of practice, Kukai brought back Sino-esoteric Buddhism sutras to Japan and founded the Shingon sect. He had earned the respect of your ancient emperor, who also began to practice with him, thus making the Shingo sect the state religion of Japan, which has influenced the development of Japanese civilization for over 1,200 years. To this very date, practitioners in Mount Koya, Japan, have continued to believe in the esoteric Buddhism teachings brought back by Kukai. Mr. Tsushima was deeply moved. Tightly taking the master by both hands, he said,
Japanese also
the wisdom attained by the master while practicing in the deep mountains is critical in our time. Traditional Japanese Buddhism attaches great importance to meditation, but because of influences from modern civilization, people now put all of their focus on the pursuit of material desires and enjoyment. The master said,
历史是一面镜子，它能照见千古浮沉。文化是感情纽带，它能化解是非恩怨。信仰是灵魂的家园，它能使人迷途知返，忘记了历史，过断了文化， 丧失了信仰，那将使人十分落魄，迷失了本性，不知道什么是良知和道德的底线。
The Master continues to say, if one forgets history, cuts off ties with culture and loses faith, one will lose one's mind and forget one's purpose in life, while having no sense of conscience or morals. If our mind is not awakened from deep within, we will inevitably become selfish, ignorant, and proud, and people and countries will continue to fight over their interests in both open rivalry and veiled strife that will only further intensify and deepen. Why should we advocate compassion? Why should we pray for peace in the world? Because we are threatened by our future prospect that looks very gloomy at the moment. People are discontent with each other. Everyone is after his own interest, and chaos is rising all over the place. If we waited until we reached the point of no return, it would be too late for anything. Today, I present to you with this mandala, united as one for world peace. May we have respect for heaven and earth, always keep our gratitude in our heart, resist all warfare, and put an end to violence. After hearing the Master's revelation, the National Prayer Breakfast delegation from Japan, Korea, and Mongolia all had great respect for him. Mr. Yuji Tsushima said earnestly, "This masterpiece is very precious. It awakens every one of us. I cannot keep it in private. I want to donate it to the Diet of Japan, or a monastery, so that more Japanese people can feel the great compassion from the Master, which will inspire them all." Mr. Ahmed Uravani, president of the Center for Study of Islam in the Middle East, highly appreciates the ideology, united as one for world peace, advocated by the Master. He sincerely invited the Master to visit the Middle East to spread compassion of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism mandala, resolve conflicts, and promote peace in the region. Dr. Ajat Shatru Binod Singh, director of the BRICS Institute of India, flew in from New Delhi to Washington, D.C. He also brought his classmate Mr. Dharma, who had been working in IBM for many years in the United States, to meet the Master and find his spiritual destiny. Mr. J. Reed Randall, head of the National Prayer Breakfast in the UK, said that humanity is in great need of the Master's concept of inclusiveness and tolerance. He sincerely invited the Master to visit Britain and spread the compassion of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism mandala. Mr. John T. Nakamura, a famous agricultural scientist and senior member of the National Prayer Breakfast Committee, and his wife visited the Master. The Master felt his pulse and gave him advice for his ailment. The Master also blessed him. National Prayer Breakfast volunteer Charlie Boogie took out a sterling silver cross which had been given to him by his late spiritual teacher. He had worn the cross continuously for 25 years. He sincerely asked the Master to accept this gift of devotion. When I am with the Master, I can feel the great love of God nearby. It is my greatest honor that the Master can receive my gift. He sincerely asked the Master to bless him. Filled with great excitement, he recited a verse which had been used to praise God over 2,000 years ago as admiration to the Master.
I believe that I shall see the bounty of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord with courage. Be stout-hearted and wait for the Lord.
Dr. Munzer Fatfat, advisor to former U.S. President George W. Bush on the Middle East, remarked, "The Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei uses his great compassion to promote peace in the world. He has made contributions that exceed the abilities of ordinary people. And for this, he has more than enough to earn the admiration and respect of all." The Master's visit to the United States received high praises and created a wide impact internationally. Eminent persons from all walks of life, the United States, and peace lovers from around the world came to visit the Master. They invited the Master to propagate Sino-Esoteric Buddhism in their homeland. The Master worked tirelessly to form Dharma connections with all destined, advocating the establishment of a community of shared future for mankind and planting the seeds of peace, friendship, and compassion in their hearts. During the MPB week, Jinke disciples circled the National Mall while chanting ancient Sanskrit Buddhism mantras. They exhibited the great mandala masterpiece in front of the Lincoln Memorial to advocate peace. They chanted the rebirth mantra in front of the World War II Memorial to spread compassion and to release the souls of the soldiers who had fallen into purgatory during the war. In front of the Vietnam Memorial, a lady told Jinke disciples,
He was 18 years old and he
"A few
was
decades
drafted,
ago, my nephew was dead after just 1 month in battle. He was only 18 years old, and his name is carved on this memorial wall. The pain that has been brought on to our family by war is too much to bear. I come here every year to mourn for my nephew and pray there will be no more wars. I agree with the Master's ideology for one world to be united completely. In this day and age, maintaining peace around the world can no longer be accomplished by a single person or a nation alone. All nations should join hand in hand, link heart to heart, and cooperate with all forces to achieve true peace." Waves rippled in the reflecting pool, with seagulls flying high above. The Washington Monument stands erect with white clouds rising above the Capitol Hill in gentle breezes. The Vajra master, Jinke Xuanlei, prayed with faith followers and peace lovers from all over the world for friendship between Chinese and Americans, and for world peace. Building a harmonious home and praying for the peace in the world. Today, mankind has advanced significantly since antiquity. Mountains and oceans are no longer considered dangerous barriers or wide gulfs. As distances of thousands of miles have been reduced to a mere few feet, people of all nations are having interactions day and night as they are embedded in one another. Nevertheless, differences in culture, ideologies, and religions, as well as religious extremists, terrorists, political struggles, and wars, have continued to cause conflicts and crises in our world. The contradiction between the growing human desire for material possessions and the limited resources on Earth is becoming increasingly prominent and posing a grave threat to world peace. While the two ruthless world wars of the last century are still fresh in our memories, the dark clouds of nuclear weapons are looming over our globe again. Today, at a time of significant advancements in science, technology, and material well-being, why is humankind facing an unprecedented crisis of self-destruction? How can we work together to build a harmonious home for mankind? On January 27, 2017, a delegation was invited to participate in the World Peace Forum held at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The forum was co-sponsored by the Berenu Institute for Economic Development, a religious NGO institute, and the Ghana, Haiti, Nigeria, Bangladesh, and South Africa missions to the UN, as well as the Caring for Humanity Association, under the theme of forming a community of shared future for mankind. At the forum, the delegation conducted friendly and in-depth cultural exchanges with more than 20 officials and ambassadors from various missions to the UN and leaders and representatives from local Chinese-American communities. Ambassador Philbert Johnson from the Mission of Ghana, chairman of the forum, Mrs. Ugoji Eze, who serves on the Commission on the Status of Women, Peace and Security, Bruce Knotts, executive director of the Unitarian Universalist Association, UUA's United Nations Office, UUNO, Mr. Masudul Hassan, advisor and personal physician to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and Pastor Monica Sanchez all spoke at the forum. They had in-depth discussions on how all nations around the world needed to form a community of shared future for mankind in order to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals from the perspectives of civilizations exchange, religious solidarity, and extensive education. In his congratulatory letter to the forum, the Vajra master, Jinke Xuanlei, points out, "Today, the crises that the world faces are not financial ones or those of shortages of food or clothing. Rather, they are crises of morality, of beliefs, and worse, of war. A society cannot use political rights to suppress freedom of religion and deprive people of equal rights. If people treat religions with prejudice, arrogance, and contempt, they will hurt the believers' sentiments toward the ruling party and the government. It can even be used by people with ulterior motives to endanger the society. But with the right methods, it can bring social harmony. In the vast, boundless universe, our earth is but akin to a speck of dust. As human beings living on this earth, we must live as members of the same family, removing hatred and hostility, loving one another in affinity, and coexisting in harmony." Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, pointed out in his first speech at the United Nations office at Geneva, different histories, national conditions, and ethnic groups and customs give birth to different civilizations and make the world a colorful one. There is no such thing as a superior or inferior civilization, and civilizations are different only in identity and location. Diversity of civilizations should not be a source of global conflict. Rather, it should be an engine driving the advance of human civilization. The Master continues to point out in his letter, only by jumping out of narrow selfish interests, rebuilding a high degree of spiritual civilization on the ruins of the soul, reshaping the lofty beliefs of kindness and compassion, ending the opposition between materialism and idealism, resolving the differences between different religions and ideologies, achieving peaceful coexistence of different civilizations, uniting people of the world to work together, forming a community of shared destiny for mankind, creating a new civilization for mankind, and completing the historical self-transcendence, can we enter a world of great love and harmony. The United Nations headquarters kept the divine mandala painting, The Wisdom of Vajra, the sculpture, the Vajra, and the porcelain Jun, the 5 wisdoms of the 5 Buddhas. These artworks had all been created by the Master with great wisdom. The ambassadors of the United Nations and UN officials expressed their thanks to the Master for his efforts in recent years on promoting peace around the world, and spoke highly of the Master's mandala artworks. After the forum was over, the Jinke disciples, with lotus lamps in hands, chanted the heavenly mantra, according to the rite of Sino-esoteric Buddhism mandala in the UN auditorium, to pray for peace around the world. Peace through compassion in an ever-changing world. During the delegation's visit to the U.S., Yin Ji, Yin Chao, and 2 other Jinke disciples visited the United States Institute of Peace. The Institute is considered as one of the most important and influential think tanks in the United States. Its mission is to serve the people and the government through the widest possible range of education and training, basic and applied research opportunities, and peace information services on the means to promote international peace and the resolution of conflicts among the nations and peoples of the world without recourse to violence. It has a considerable impact on the United States government's decision-making process regarding foreign policy, especially on its policy toward Asia and the Pacific, including China. The Jinke disciples had friendly exchanges with Sherry Carter, Director of Development, and the Reverend Susan Hayward, Senior Advisor for Religion and Inclusiveness Societies, and Jennifer Statz, Director for East and Southeast Asia Programs. The Jinke disciples shared with them what the Master was disseminating on his U.S. visit, the magnanimous concept of united as one for world peace. The rapid advancement of science and technology have turned the earth into a small village where all nations can interact with each other regardless of night and day. With you embodying me, and I embodying you, a community of shared future has already been formed in our world. One's mindset determines the path one takes. The capacity of one's heart determines the height of one's vision. Humanity needs to find the fundamental path to a bright future. Leaders of the world need to put aside their narrow self-interest and work together in joint hands from the vantage point of all humanity to elevate the development of human civilization from the current focus on the endless materialistic pursuit to the coexistence of spiritual and material independence. Unite as one for a common destiny. Only when we make our planet great again can every country reach its true greatness. In the art of warfare, destroying the enemy's will is better than storming a citadel, and changing the enemy's mind is better than weakening its will. If humanity does not know how to purify the soul, people's mind cannot be united as one. Attempts to resolve conflicts through political, diplomatic, military, and economical means can only bring temporary and expedient solutions. Children need their parents to impart rudimentary knowledge of life. Countries need the guidance of their leaders, and humanity needs the teachings of saints. Only the power of selfless compassion can unite humankind together in a united march toward harmony and a bright future. Mr. Carter, the Reverend Hayward, and Miss Stotts all highly agreed with the Master's concept. The ever-changing modern world has hidden crises in many areas, but all the conflicts can be traced back to problems in the human mind. The Master was using his divine compassion to purify the human mind and promote world peace. They all look forward to an opportunity to have the Master give a speech at the Institute for Peace. They believe that the profound culture of Sino-esoteric Buddhism would undoubtedly bring new inspirations to the American people. Sino-esoteric Buddhism mandala, an artwork depicting the universe. On January 22, 2018, artists of the delegation were invited to participate in a series of events organized by the Chinese Consulate General in San Francisco under the theme of Happy Spring Festival. Jinke mandala paintings, calligraphies, porcelains, Vajra sculpture, and other artworks were exhibited at the Panda International Culture and Arts Festival held in San Leandro, California. The opening ceremony was simple and grand. Cultural counselor Xiao Zhaiyang of the Chinese Consulate in San Francisco cut the ceremonial ribbon together with honored guests. The exhibition attracted a large crowd of Chinese Americans and an endless stream of audience. Jinke disciple Yin Duan tells the audience during her interview by Xinhua News Agency, "Today, we've come to the San Francisco Bay Area to organize this exhibition. We carry a very warm welcome. I am deeply touched." Sino-esoteric Buddhism has integrated with Confucianism and Taoism to become the crown jewel of Buddhism. It is a cultural heritage that has been preserved for thousands of years on the vast land of China. Due to various reasons, many people still do not understand her profound meanings and value. The art of Sino-esoteric Buddhism Jinke mandala art cannot be compared with the techniques of regular artworks. It is a skillful means which embodies the wisdom and compassion of the Master to bring enlightenment to sentient beings. It is filled with profound esoteric meanings and glorious wisdom. It is also the most extraordinary Dharma practice given by the Master to his disciples as a blessing to remove their past deeds, purify their mind, and enlighten their heart. Its rich forms of expression include paintings, calligraphy, porcelain, sculptures, Sanskrit chants, and dances. The exhibition deeply touched the Chinese community in the Bay Area. In their interviews, many stated that the extensive and profound Asian civilization has the cultural genes and great wisdom to embrace all humankind. Why are areas inhabited by overseas Chinese communities called Chinatowns? It is because we are all proud of the great Tang culture. You must carry on and carry forward the Sino-esoteric Buddhism culture. come back and visit the United States often to show us more about the history and culture of our motherland. Let the dream from youth fly, and spring will return to the earth. In the same evening, Jinke disciples and other arts groups from all over the world joined hands at the San Leandro Performing Arts Center to celebrate the Chinese Spring Festival. Nearly 1,000 overseas Chinese and local people from the San Francisco Bay Area and America came to watch the wonderful performance. Ying Ding and Ying Yu sang in a duet 2 songs, A Harmonious World and Ode to Light, to express their desire and longing for world peace. Jinke disciples performed a graceful dance to the melodious parting tune with a thrice-repeated refrain, which gave rise to nostalgia from among many overseas Chinese in the audience. Dr. Seng and Yin Duan cited the prose, "Let our world be filled with spring blossoms." They were expressing Jinke disciples' goodwill toward cultural exchanges and their hope for the return of saints from both the East and the West. The event was warmly welcomed from both the local overseas Chinese and Americans. Many overseas Chinese expressed the hope for the Jinke disciples to stay in the Bay Area and spread the cultural treasures of their motherland. They held the Jinke disciples tightly by the hand, just like their loved ones, reluctant to go. Knowledge is power, and faith leads the direction. During their visit to the San Francisco Bay Area for cultural activities, the Jinke disciples also visited Stanford University, a world-famous institution of higher learning. Stanford University is the birthplace of many great innovations. It is a symbol of the creative spirit and essence for the 21st century in America. The university has educated many high-tech entrepreneurs and contributed many multi-million-making companies like Hewlett-Packard, Google, Yahoo, Nike, Cisco, and Firefox, as well as 17 astronauts and 58 Nobel laureates. The Silicon Valley in California is the world center for high-tech entrepreneurship, while Stanford University is the driving force behind the innovations in Silicon Valley. Taking a stroll on campus, one can feel the rich humanistic interest everywhere. In the courtyard located at the center of the campus is the Burghers of Calais sculpture by Auguste Rodin, a famous French sculptor. During the 100 Years' War between England and France, when the important French port city of Calais was under siege by the English, King Edward III offered to spare the people of the city if 6 of its top leaders would surrender themselves to him, presumably to be executed. 6 burghers walked out of the city gate in tragic solemnity, some barefooted, some shackled, some looking staunch, some in anguish and despair, and yet some others in confusion and trepidation. Standing in front of these sculptures, everyone can feel without exception the loneliness, fragility, and insignificance of life. The modern men like to say that science creates productivity and knowledge is power. It seems as if scientific and technological advancements had become the top priority in human society. However, we humans should not forget that although knowledge is power, morals and faith should be the premise, the direction, and the eternal foundation of development. There is a Chinese old saying, "Greed is like a valley that can never be filled." Without morals and faith, the further science and technology advances and the more abundant material wealth becomes, the farther is mankind going to go astray down a dangerous path. People who are scientifically and technologically more advanced can be under attack, just as the underdeveloped. Besides, an attack on one will affect the rest, and the destruction of one will lead to the downfall of all. Heaven will not fail if economic development is slower. Earth will not cave in if scientific and technological advancement is slower. However, the values of judgment involving the development of human civilization should not deviate by 1 iota, or the direction of human progress will encounter major problems. So where do the values of judgment come from? From conscience. Where is conscience from? From holy faith. In ancient times, Noah saw the selfishness and greed of humankind and sounded a danger warning. He exhausted all his possessions to build an ark, but received nothing except ridicules and abuses. No one would listen to him. As a result, the Great Flood sent human progress back to the very beginnings to start all over again. Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus saw resentments and fighting all over the globe, so he began to call for love around the world, but was betrayed by the greedy traitor Judas. Today, we are blinded by the ever-expanding pleasures of materialism. People use technologies to protect themselves, but the threat to humankind has been brought upon by nothing other than the advancement of science and technology. People are continuously in pursuit of wealth, but how many resources do we have to fill the bottomless desire of humans? The burghers of Calais at Stanford University are crying out in silence with pain in their eyes. They are expressing the confusion of humankind throughout the ages. In the vast star-studded universe, the Earth has been floating around for hundreds of millions of years. Human beings live alone on this planet. Where are we from? Where are we now? Where are we going? Sense guide people, and faith lights the world. On the morning of January 23, 2017, Jinke disciples visited the Empire State Building in New York City. On the 86th floor of the building, the blowing harsh winds seemed to be shaking even the building. Overlooking the city, which is known as the most prosperous cosmopolitan on Earth, one could see the endless rows of buildings and the crisscrossing streets in Manhattan. New York was still prosperous as before. As the Jinke disciples walked up and down Fifth Avenue, they caught sight of two classic, simple, yet magnificent cathedrals close to Trump Tower, which were more striking amidst the most fashionable and extravagant part of the city. It seems that in this well-established capitalist country, people have not forgotten to find a place for their souls. However, under the impact of rapid scientific and technological advancements, many people have forgotten the glory of God. How many people still really believe in the existence of God? At noon, the Jinke disciples took a ferry at the Brooklyn Park Harbor to visit the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island and pray for world peace. Overlooking from the ferry, they could see under the gloomy and cold winter of New York the Statue of Liberty, holding aloft her torch and standing erected on Liberty Island. Her crown was radiant with light, as if it were to pierce the haze above. After arriving on the island, a strong ocean wind suddenly started to howl. The waves hit the island embankment one after another with dashing smothers of spray. The distant sight of Manhattan flickered across the water behind the wind and smoke as if it were a vague mirage. The Jinke disciples began to chant the mantra of heavenly connection in the harsh wind and prayed for peace around the world. The sound of Dharma was accompanied by the tide of the sea, whistling up to the horizon. For more than a century, the Statue of Liberty has remained the symbol of American people's desire for democracy and freedom. Mankind aspires for freedom in the hope that freedom will illuminate the world and appease its soul. But without the sublimation of humanity, the change from confusion to enlightenment, the world would be restless, and the soul would be uneasy because of the pursuit after freedom. In truth, freedom alone cannot guide people, nor can it illuminate the world. Only the great compassion and wisdom of saints can be of guidance to people, and only the beacon of faith can illuminate the world. If mankind pursues noble spiritual beliefs, it will live a full life in a harmonious society. The blind pursuit of materials and enjoyments will lead one to follow the law of the jungle, the survival of the strong, and prey upon the weak. In this materialistic society, many people pursue freedom and happiness, but they do not know where true freedom and happiness is. Some people may say that social progress is the continuous satisfaction of all human desires, and that the desire of humankind is the driving force for social progress. But if desires are all that's left in humans, what is the difference between humans and animals? People do not know that the progress of a materialism-based life cannot fill the spiritual emptiness within. Without the right belief in life, The progress of material enrichment is at the expense of spiritual retrogression. Renew the cultural lifeline and build a spiritual home. On the morning of January 25, 2017, the Jinke disciples visited the world-famous Metropolitan Museum in New York. As they strolled through the galleries, they saw cultural remains of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia from archaeological discoveries, relics of the Greek and Roman civilizations, European paintings of various periods and genre, and precious ancient arts from East Asia and ancient India. They felt as if they were traveling through history. The Metropolitan Museum has an extensive collection of ancient Chinese relics, paintings, and calligraphies that had been handed down through the ages, ritual bronzes, stone carvings, ceramics of the royals, and jade wares of the rarest kind. With a warm and thoughtful explanation of the museum staff, the Jinke disciples enjoyed the sight of these priceless artifacts. They were both shocked and filled with emotion. A nation that has forgotten its origin will be a nation without a way out. A nation that severs itself from the lifeline of its culture is destined to lose its soul and its direction. After visiting the Metropolitan Museum, Jinke disciples also went to the China Institute Art Gallery Institute in Manhattan, New York, for friendly exchanges. The China Institute was founded in 1926 by a group of distinguished American and Chinese educators, including John Dewey, Hu Shi, Paul Monroe, and Dr. Kuo Ping Wang. Established in 1966, the China Institute Gallery had organized many first-class thematic exhibitions on Chinese culture and made significant contributions to Sino-U.S. cultural exchanges as the guardian and disseminator of Chinese culture in Manhattan, New York. The mind of all saints is the same since ancient time, the search for enlightenment and truth. Yale University is a world-famous institution of higher education alongside Harvard University and Princeton University. It is known for educating notable alumni. It has earned the nickname the Cradle for Presidents. In 1701, a group of congregational ministers established the Collegiate School, former name of Yale University, for the colony of Connecticut in the hope of cultivating faith in new immigrants through newly trained ministers. They wanted to spread the teachings of Jesus and pursue the truth and enlightenment in life. On the morning of January 26, 2017, accompanied by drizzling rains, the delegation conducted a friendly and in-depth cultural exchange with Yale Divinity School. The Reverend Henry L. Slack Gregg Sterling, Dean of the Yale Divinity School, made welcoming remarks. On behalf of the Yale Divinity School, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to our visiting delegation. Today, we are very honored to meet with you to promote mutual understanding and America-China friendship. Professors and students of the school made enthusiastic speeches respectively. They were thankful for the mercy of God and expected the saints to disperse fear and confusion in our hearts and lead humankind to a beautiful future. Then, Jinke disciples recited the mantra Eke Sagarba to pray for peace around the world. The ethereal and solemn chanting was like an angelic sound coming from the heaven and deeply moved professors and students of the school. They, in return, began to sing a hymn. A cheerful singing, accompanied by piano, guitar, and jazz drums, filled the auditorium. Afterwards, The two parties conducted a warm and friendly exchange on science and religion, and on the development of human civilization in the 21st century. Eastern and Western civilizations began to fuse with each other and produce beautiful sparks of light. After the exchange, the Jinke disciples toured the campus. The world prestige of Yale comes from taking humanistic care and faith into its soul. Now, many people want to attend prestigious universities and have a high educational background, not for seeking truth and enlightenment, but to use these titles in their pursuit of fame and fortune. The amount of one's knowledge does not represent one's wisdom. Ownership of material abundance cannot be equated with human quality. However, advanced science and technology may be. They can never find the final destination for the soul. Jesus, Mohammed, Confucius, and Huining were ineligible for school because of their poverty. Their fathers had all died at an early age. Jesus studied carpentry from childhood. Mohammed was a shepherd boy. Confucius lived a hard life with his mother. Huining was a lumberjack. But these sages had selfless compassion for all sentient beings, which led them to attain wisdom that helped them understand the pain and sufferings of life. Is there any politician, scientist, or philosopher in the history of human civilization, let alone a college student, who has ever exceeded these saints in the elevation of human civilization? Throughout history, various prophecies around in the world predicting that the human greed and desire for enjoyment would lead to various crises. The inscription on the tablet of Xuanlei Pagoda, which had been passed down through folklore wisdom, contains the words, "A great catastrophe will happen in the Spirit Mountain. The burning fire would cleanse all realms." This refers to the Mapo period of the world, where sentient beings have no faith, defecate on the teaching of saints, forget one's ancestry and traditions, and become lawless with no respect of heaven. In Tuibetu, it reads, "The dark haze of smog can kill without the use of a knife." Here, the word smog refers to the haze of severe pollution and the looming threat of nuclear weapons. It also refers to the haze in the human heart from selfishness and greed. Both East and West have forgotten that a saint will come back to guide humankind toward the light. But where can we turn to find the sage who will start everlasting peace for humanity? Is there still a savior for this world? Ancient sages, eternal love, seeking outside, never attained. All methods of Dharma are the right Dharma. All words of Dharma are words of the sages. All acts of Dharma are the right path. The saints in history have never left us. They have already pointed out the light for us. They have transformed it as teachings of compassion and wisdom. Why do we still need to look for saints? If one knows one can learn the teaching of saints, one's mind is awakened. The fate of humanity is in our own hands. We can find the Savior to awaken our mind by ourselves. At dusk, the delegation concluded its one-day exchange visit. On the way back, the golden sun shines through the glass of the bus on the Jinke disciples. They begin to sing a happy song on the bus to bless Yale University, bless Yale students, and wish them a better tomorrow. Mutual exchange and learning to promote development of humanity. Established in 1887, the Catholic University of America is the only institution of higher education founded by the U.S. Catholic bishops. Since then, it has cultivated many outstanding workers and pastors for the U.S. and global Catholic Church. On February 5, 2017, the delegation was invited to conduct friendly cultural exchanges with the School of Theology and Religious Studies. Professor Robert A. Destro welcomed the delegates with warm remarks. Jinke disciple Yin Feng introduced the lineage of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism, the master's asceticism practice in the deep mountains, and his Dharma work since he came out from the mountains. Yin Duan cited the master's congratulatory message. Afterward, everyone participated in a friendly and in-depth exchange on the topic of the state of Buddhism enlightenment needs to be based on true practice. Hearty laughter was heard from time to time inside the meeting room. The enlightened power, compassion, and wisdom of the Master deeply shocked the professors and students of the university. They were eager to learn the personal experiences of the Jinke disciples in following the Master in practicing Buddhism. Yingdang said, "Before I met the Master in 2007, I was a materialist. The various achievements and miracles described in the different religion, in my opinion, were just idealistic and superstitious statements. I didn't believe the reincarnations of the 6 realms and the karmic retribution propagated by Buddhism. Nor did I believe the miracles recorded in the Bible where Jesus could turn well water into wine. And the story of Muhammad boarding into heaven to travel through the 7 layers of heaven was even more improbable to me. When I finally met the Master, he told me, humanity depends on their 6 senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind to attain knowledge of the world. Even the most advanced science and technology are but an extension of these senses, but many religious experiences are beyond the functions of these senses. Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad are all saints who are rare occurrences in the history of humankind. The range of their enlightenment is incomprehensible to ordinary people and undiscoverable with the use of scientific means. Some of these extraordinary experiences can only be seen after one's heavenly eye is open, while others can only be experienced during deep meditation where the spirit enters the multidimensional spaces beyond the perceptions of human senses. The access to these multidimensional spaces can be gained only by following the teachings of saints, such as having the determination to attain enlightenment, to practice the 6 paramitas, to awaken within through true practices. The existence of such a state is not based on whether you believe it or not. You need sight to see the rainbow. You need hearing to listen to the chirpings of birds. You need a sense of smell to find the fragrance of the rose. If you are deaf and blind with no sense of smell and haven't attained the 5 heavenly eyes, will you believe it if someone tells you that flowers smell nice, birds can sing, and the rainbow comes in 7 colors? The existences of reincarnation into the 6 realms, heaven and hell, are not determined by anyone's consciousness. One will realize that hell and reincarnation do exist when one enters the transitional state between death and rebirth. But it would be too late for one to do anything because the soul will involuntarily follow its karma to enter another rebirth. Religious belief is an orientation of one's spiritual value in life. It is an individual experience with an ultimate show of solitude, which are expressed as reverence, goodwill, understanding, dedication, and devotion to everyday life. These pursuits and activities are harmless to society and do not affect one's normal life. On the contrary, they can play a role in stabilizing the society and purifying the mind. Practice is the sole criterion for testing truth. Science is all about finding truth from facts. If everyone is narrow-minded, mechanical, and dogmatic, how can human civilization move forward in development? Humankind needs scientific and technological advancement to explore the unknown, but they also need belief to find their spiritual home. Why do you have to put the two against each other? Although the Master's words made sense, I still had stubborn lips. In my opinion, the Buddha's teachings are only there to restrict people. Life is too short. Why should I be so hard on myself? I don't have any belief, but my life seems to be okay. The Master said, if a man sails the sea during the daylight, the sight of a lighthouse doesn't really matter much. But in this world, who can tell me he, she, will never see nighttime? With a beacon of faith, the voyage of life will always have directions and meanings, regardless of day or night. A person will not lose his head because things aren't going his way, and will not be overcome by pain or despair when facing adversity. In richness or poverty, one can always be content, In joy or sorrow, birth, aging, illness, or death, one can always see a silver lining. There is always something to hope for in life. Even when facing death, there will be no fear and panic because one knows it is not the end of life. The Master's testimony touched me deeply. At my sincere request, the Master agreed to take me as his disciple and follow him in practicing Buddhism. I gradually began to see the profound wisdom of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism, which allows me to consider everything and all social phenomenon in an inclusive and understanding perspective. Now, I understand why skeptics oppose religious beliefs. In reality, they are opposing religious power, blind faith, and superstitions. They are objecting to acts of disregarding the will of the people, but seeking answers from ghosts or gods, using religion as method means for monetary gains, reaping where they have not sown, resorting to dubious shifts to further their interests, and unconditionally giving control of their destiny to the gods. Skeptics do not oppose the casual law of good and evil. Neither will they deny the great virtues of saints. Anything carried to the extreme may become absurd. If we do not distinguish religious power, corruption, and superstition from the teaching of saints and noble spiritual beliefs, we will take apart as the whole and move toward extremes where skeptics will imprison themselves to become extreme left. If every one of us could objectively recognize and understand religion, give each other a little bit more understanding, kindness, trust, and tolerance, Jesus would not have been crucified by evil forces. Giordano Bruno would not have been burned at the stake by the Roman Inquisition. The tragic Chinese Cultural Revolution of destroying the four olds would not have happened, and there would have been a lot less of killing and fighting amongst human beings. I am thrilled to meet with you today for exchanges, and I welcome your visit to China. The meeting room was filled with continuous applause. Dr. Charles B. Jones asked, "Do you sense anything special when you chant the divine mantra of Avalokitesvaras?" An international student from China asked, "Why is meditation part of your practice? What do you feel when you meditate?" Some professors asked, "What is the fundamental point in practicing Sino-Esoteric Buddhism? Why do you say that one can only enter the multidimensional space through the determination to attain enlightenment and practicing the six perfects? Can every religion take its believers to heaven? What do you think of the vulgarization of Buddhists?" Very Reverend Mark Morozovich, an associate professor of liturgical studies, sacramental theology, said, "We had a great exchange today. The Master's ideology deeply touched us. We hope to maintain a long-term and friendly relationship with your organization. Every year, we will find opportunities to have exchanges like this one to enhance the friendship among different religions, further American-Chinese friendship, and promote peace around the world." Praying for auspicious weather and everlasting friendship. During its visit to Washington, D.C., the Sino-Esoteric Buddhism delegation was also invited to Loudoun County in Virginia. Ms. Kirsten C. Umstadt, the Leesburg District Representative on the Board of Supervisors, highly praised the delegation for its effort in enhancing mutual understanding between the American and Chinese people. She also thanked the delegation for sharing the ancient and wondrous mandala arts with the people of Loudoun County. She said, "Although Loudoun County is close to Washington, D.C., and is one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, we are very much in need of spiritual wealth as well. I hope with your visit, you will bring Eastern wisdom to the people of our county and pray for them." After the meeting, officials from Loudoun County accompanied the delegation to the Government Center to attend the Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Mandala Art Exhibition, jointly organized by the U.S. China Education Trust in Washington, D.C., the Loudoun County Department of Economic Development, and Window to China, North American Channel. At the opening ceremony, followed by the sound of footbells, an Indian artist performed a dance to the gods in dedication to the delegation. Right after that, a troupe of local overseas Chinese performed the fan dance with the song The Jasmine to express their yearnings for Oriental culture. Jinke disciple Xuanlei sang the hymn Amazing Grace, which has been one of the most extensively sung hymns in the United States for over 100 years. And Ying Yu sang Auld Lang Syne. Bursts of warm applause filled the room. At the end of the performance, Jinke disciples solemnly chanted the mantra of Akasagabra to pray for good weather in Loudoun County and for the health and happiness of the local people. Afterwards, the Loudoun County officials saw the painting United as One, a grand depiction of world leaders holding hand in hand and uniting mind to form a community of shared future for mankind. They very much agreed with the Master's ideology for great compassion. Global integration, worldwide stability, and resources sharing have led to opportunities for the rapid development of Loudoun County. In today's world, it is impossible for any country to seclude and isolate itself from the rest of the world, whether it is between people to people, countries to countries, city to cities, and the east to the west. Everyone must coexist and cooperate with others for mutual benefit. The painting, United as One, conveys to us the great compassion from deep within the soul and gives us a new perspective to elevate our view of the world. The call of a rooster signals daylight, which illuminates the whole world. On the first day of the Chinese New Year, on January 28, 2017, in order to sow the seeds of Sino-esoteric Buddhism on the other side of the Pacific so that it would sprout, blossom, and bear fruit into bringing salvation to sentient beings, the 2017 prayer ceremony for Sino-American friendship and world peace and the founding ceremony of the World League of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Association, USA, was held at the Flushing Civic Center, New York. Many in the Chinese community, compatriots, and international friends had ardently looked forward to this grand event, which was held at the kind invitations of over 30 overseas Chinese associations, including the Federation of Overseas Chinese Associations, Association of American Chinese Professionals, World Chinese Traders New York Association, New York Council for the Promotion of Peaceful Reunification of China, Chinese Jinke Association USA. At 3 p.m., the Flushing Civic Center was decorated with lanterns and streamers and buzzing with people. Over 500 people, including the New York City Council members, UN officials, overseas Chinese, and people from all walks of life, attended the event. Accompanied by the resounding national anthem of China and the United States, the prayer ceremony solemnly began. The event opened with a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the inauguration of the World League of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Associations. The ribbon was cut together by Mr. Li Hie, chairman of the Federation of Overseas Chinese Associations, New York City Councilman Peter Koo, representatives from the Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Association, community leaders from various Chinese American associations, and guests from the local community. Mr. Peter Koo congratulated the establishment of the World League of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Associations and issued a certificate to Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Association for their work in promoting friendly cultural exchanges between China and the United States. New York State Senator Toby Ann Savitsky also sent her congratulatory letter. After that, the Master presided over the prayer ceremony in solemnity and blessed everyone with cleansing water to eliminate their troubles and bring auspiciousness to them in the coming year. hundreds of guests present bathed in the joy of the Dharma. Mr. Uwaifo Aramosa, a UN-affiliated official, says, "I love Sino-esoteric Buddhism culture. Although I have an African face, I hope the Master will bless me with a Chinese brain. I wish for peace and prosperity in China." Mr. Bruce Marcus, a board member of the Harvard Club of New York, says, "The calling from the painting, United as One, for all people of the world to unite together, has deeply moved us. This event is a great start for more people to be aware of Asian civilizations and Sino-esoteric Buddhism. Bless Sino-esoteric Buddhism. Bless China." Masha from Russia says, "During the prayer ceremony and celebrations, I felt the powerful energy from the Master, and divinity inspired me. I am honored to be part of your Sino-esoteric Buddhism Association and hope that the Master will go to Russia soon to spread Sino-esoteric Buddhism." The Sino-esoteric Buddhism delegation's activities during its visit to the United States had widespread influence in various sectors of American society. Many media, including Xinhua News Agency, World Journal, the most widely circulated Chinese newspaper in the U.S., ANC Business News, the China Press, New World Times, Tri-State News, Top China covered their visit. Tonight, we are celebrating the Spring Festival on the other side of the ocean. Tonight, we wish happiness and health for our fellow countrymen. Tonight, we bless the overseas Chinese with close connection with the motherland. Tonight, we bless our great homeland with prosperity. The call of a rooster signals daylight, which illuminates the whole world. May our world always be filled with spring blossoms. May peace always prevail in our world. We pray that with the joint efforts of world leaders and the entire human race, mankind in the 21st century will open a new chapter in the history of civilization and march toward a bright and beautiful future together. Enkele Ikesuo.